Ableton Live's new 11.3 update brought us a fantastic new free gift. It is the virtual synth that has been missing from Ableton Live for all these years, and it's called Drift. It's a beautifully simple, beginner-friendly, great-sounding virtual subtractive synth, and it's packed full of MPE capabilities. Best bit about this is it's free for all users of Ableton Live. So light, intro, standard, and sweet. Fantastic job, Ableton. Okay, so let's jump into Ableton Live and check out Drift. Cool. So essentially, Drift can be broken up into 6 main areas. So we have the oscillator section, filter section, envelopes, LFO, mod, and then this mode area here. So let's start at the sound generation point, which is the oscillators. You have the usual suspects, which you have a sine, triangle, jump over these two, I'll come back to in a minute, sawtooth, pulse width, and square wave. Those are your typical, usual wave shapes. So the first new one we have is a shark tooth, which is basically a classical variable shape oscillator, which is generally featured in a Moog style sort of synth. And the next one is a saturated shape, which was apparently an accident, created by accident. They went to try something else and they got this one. So let's hear how that one sounds. And that one works really well on basses. I think both these two work well on both basses, especially this one here. Cool. So then we have a detune, which works in octaves. Then we have this really cool dial here, shape, which if I put this on a sawtooth, essentially is like changing the shape of the wave. You see there, it increases the harmonics and just gets a bit crazy. So if we look at this like a sine wave, so we can get some really cool sounds out of just the oscillator one. Now we have a mod source here directly on the shape, which has the MPE parameters already packed in. So there's not like a separate MPE tab, which is fantastic. Then we have the oscillator 2, which doesn't have as many waveforms. It has the saturated one, but it doesn't have this shark tooth one. Then we have the oscillator jump, octave jump. Then we have a detune that works in sense, so we can get that classic phasing in between waves. So if I go to 2 sawtooths, lovely, that's the sound we love, hey? And you see here we have a display, so you can see like when I do the shape here, you get a visual representation of shape, which I love this. Now we have a retrigger here, which will retrigger any phasing that goes on between the 2 oscillators. So we have an on-off for each one of the oscillators, and we have a noise generator oscillator down here. We also have another 2 modulation points for the pitch. We also have a volume going into the filter, and we also have a filter bypass button, so we can choose if the oscillator is going to bypass the filter and go straight to the amp section. Now what's really cool with this section is you can drive it into the filter and you can increase the saturation of the sound. So if we just put it to 1 oscillator at the moment, I do, and then I increase it. Bring the second oscillator in. See how much fatter it sounds when you boost them in. So let's turn them all the way up. Yeah, let's do it. Then that brings me on to the filter section. So the filter has 2 types of filters. We have type 1, type 2. So type 1 is a 12 decibel cutoff, and the second one is a 24 decibel. So then we have the cutoff frequency here. We also have the key. So that's how much of the key or the key bed is affecting the frequency of the filter. And we got the resonance. And then we've got a high pass filter as well. Listen to what happens to the sound when I pull back the volume of the oscillators driving the filter. this one as well. Can you hear the resonance? It was a lot louder. If I turn these back up again, we lose that kind of really intense resonance sound. Pretty cool, hey? And then again, we've got the frequency modulations here. We have the LFO as well, which we'll come on to in a minute. Then we have the envelope section. So we've got the first one that by default works on the amp. We have another envelope here which hasn't been assigned or hasn't hardwired to a destination. We can send it to somewhere, and what we can do is we can choose to do it here. So if I choose this here and I put it to like 100% down, there we go. So we've got filter 2 independently from this attack here. Now what I can do is I can also put it into a sort of LFO. So we actually have like a tilt dial here where it actually acts as like a sort of a wave shaper there. Fantastic. And we got a hold as well, so we can hold it. Then we've got the rate here, so we can set it to hertz, milliseconds. So we can use the frequency modulation coming from oscillator 1 so that you can hear there. So then we have the LFO, you've got the rate and the same settings here, which you've got the hertz, milliseconds, the subdivision and the frequency modulation here. Then we have different kind of types of modulation. So we got the sine wave, and we can choose retrigger. So we can have the amount be modulated as well. So if I put the LFO here, there we go. So if I So we're getting the FM modulation there. If I take it back to like a rhythmic. Now if we try like a sample and hold, which adds in some randomization, and we can turn down the amount here. Then we have the modulation matrix, which is kind of cool because we've got it on certain places here, like the frequency for the filter and then the pitch mod, but then we've got other areas we can take it to. So we got here like the mod wheel, like what else have we got here? We got like the MPE stuff, so pressure, and then we could put that to 100% and have that set to any of these parameters here. Now let's look at the kind of the main part of this synthesizer, which is the mode and the drift. These two work really well together. So drift is essentially what we were talking about in the intro. It's essentially putting the oscillator 1, 2 and the filter out of phase with each other, so we get these lovely detuning, warbling noises, which is the main character of the analog subtractive synth sound. Okay, so let's turn it all the way up and hear how it sounds. See, 100%, it gets a bit out of tune, which is kind of crazy. We're in poly, which works as you would expect, like a poly synth, and we have mono, which we'll come on to in bass in a minute. But then we've got this stereo feature here, which will spread the voices and pan them around the stereo image. The more you apply the drift, the more it affects this stereo. So check this out if I do. Whoa, fantastic sound. Let's go 100%. Why not? Whoa, okay, that's fantastic sound, right? So it's done a bit. It's probably a bit too much, but there we go. So that's the overall element. So let's look at kind of messing around with some sounds now. Let's try and get like a nice pad sound, nice bass sound. Okay, so I have a chord sequence here, and I'm going to look to kind of create sort of a Juno-y sort of pad sound with maybe a little bit of modulation on it to get a little bit of movement going on. So let's hear the default patch with it. Not the most exciting sound going on. So let's go straight for this drift dial here and bring that up. And then slightly detune these guys a little bit. Here we go. Let's bring this second octave. Let's get a... Let's put the stereo mode on. Nice, okay. So let's put a little bit of release. Nice, okay. Already sounding so much better already. Let's try a different filter. That's nice, yeah, let's drive it a bit more in. Bit of resonance. A little less drift. Okay, nice, okay. Let's try this tilt function. And let's have that do the filter cut off here. And let's put it to like a... That's nice, okay. It sounded quite nice doing it minus, didn't it? Nice, spread it a bit. Let's bring the beat in, see what's that. Okay, let's try the bass now. So let's bring the bass in on its own. Okay, now this is really cool with the mode. If we go to mono, we essentially have like a sub oscillator or like that's a low end fattener here. So if I turn that all the way up, whoa, okay. So we need to pull this one up here like that. And what we're going to try is we're going to try this new saturated wave. Let's try it here. Wow, yes, such a growl, isn't it? And detune. Nice. See this without. Oh, so much more low end, isn't it? That's definitely it. Nice, but a little bit more. Let's get that drift on the go. Whoa, and let's bring in those. Let's bring in a little bit of nice, that sounds really cool. So I'm just going to duplicate the chords here, and I'm going to put a arpeggiator on them. So we're going to MIDI effects. Let's go arpeggiator before. Now let's try this. So we're going to try using the filter as its own oscillator. So what we're going to do is turn the oscillators off here and just a little bit of noise and put the key all the way up. Whoa. Wow, what a sound that is, man. With this key, even like if we started playing around with this. Whoa. So if you're new to Ableton Live, I have playlists with a bunch of videos that help you get started. Also any problems that you might come across. Also here I have a playlist of Ableton Live Lite tutorial videos. It's a complete course. It's found on Udemy and Skillshare as well, but it's free for you to use. So check out one of these playlists. Hope to see you on this channel sometime again soon. Bye for now.